What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Jason, are the Golden State Warriors in trouble? No. What did I tell you guys when the Lakers got off to a bad start? I said, when it comes to good teams, you don't just rip off wins against good teams. Like, it doesn't happen. You're not going to see a team go on an 8-game winning streak where they beat 8 playoff teams. Like, that doesn't happen in the NBA. The league is too deep. Like, the Boston Celtics have been incredible and have been so dominant. And they went to Minnesota and lost. And they went to Philly and lost, because sometimes when you play great teams, you lose. And by the way, the Celtics have, I think last time I checked, they've won 7 games against teams that are above 500. So the Celtics have beaten a lot of good teams, but you don't beat the good teams every time. You're going to drop some games against good teams, right? So generally speaking, the good times in the NBA regular season for good teams where they rack up wins are usually you're healthy and you're playing a weaker stretch of your schedule. Like the Lakers, they've won 3 in a row. Now they're 6-5, and things are just kind of better, right? Well, they're healthy now. AD's back from his injury. Rui Hachimura's back from his injury. And they played 3 opponents in the Suns, the Blazers, and the Suns, the Blazers, and the Grizzlies that are combined 9-22. So again, like that's when they will go on a win streak, right? And that's the thing with the NBA is like, then you're going to have these down stretches where it's like we're playing some tough opponents and guys are hurt. And like all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, we lost 2 or 3 games in a row, or we lost 4 games in 5 tries. That's what happened to the Warriors. Like, Steph is hurt. Steph got hurt and you're playing a really tough stretch of your schedule, and now you're dropping games. Right? Like, you had a bad matchups. Like we talked about, the Warriors' toughest matchup for them is elite rim protection teams that have good perimeter defenders that can kind of pressure the ball and force them to back cut into their rim protection. Right? That's the type of team that causes the Warriors problems. They lost to 2 of them over the weekend, and then they dropped a game where their best player was out. So, like, does that to me reflect the big picture of Golden State? No. Like we talked about, if they're going to beat those sorts of teams, they need more scoring punch, right? Like they're going to need Klay and Chris and Andrew Wiggins to get back to form, right? But at the same time, Andrew Wiggins is playing really poorly. I don't think that's going to continue throughout the season. Like they have ways to fix that within this locker room, within the scope of this current regular season, right? But this is what the bad times look like. Injuries, tough schedule. They lost some games. It happens. What did I expect from the Warriors this season? If you guys remember in the season preview what I said, I viewed the Chris Paul trade as a playoff ceiling raiser, but that within the scope of the regular season, I still thought they would struggle some and that they'd be kind of in the middle of the pack. Kind of seems like where we're headed. But like, I'm not ready to write off the Warriors over this streak. They're one of only 6 teams in the NBA right now with a winning record over 500 or better teams. They've won 4 games like that this year against 500 or better teams. They have quality wins. The Steph injury is not serious. He's going to be back. We'll talk about Draymond in a minute. He's going to be suspended probably, but he's going to be back. Like, the Warriors are not done. This is just what the downtimes look like. And just in general, as an NBA, fan base, we all need to do a better job of like kind of understanding that within the 82, there are going to be highs and lows. There's no steady ascent into greatness. Like, even let's look back at the year that they won the title. They start 15-1 in large part because they're healthy and there was some easy games on the schedule, right? They get off to a great start for the first, 2/3 of the season, and then Steph gets hurt. And then they start dropping games. And it's like the sky is falling. And then everyone gets healthy in time for the playoffs and they win the title. So again, like just in general, we need to, these little 3, 4, 5 game windows where teams don't play well, we need to do a better job of compartmentalizing and not overreacting to. These 10, 15 game stretches where a team looks somewhat mediocre, but key players are out of the lineup. Like, all that tells me is, if that key player misses the playoffs, then they might not be able to win a series. You know what I mean? But I think that's so interesting because like my next question is, Jason, have the Lakers finally figured things out? And I mean, this is what the good times look like. Easy schedule, guys healthy. You're going to rack up some wins if you're a good team, right? And there are some encouraging signs, right? Their shooters are making shots finally. Like I talked a lot going into the winning streak about how what's so bizarre about this Laker team is D'Angelo Russell, historically good shooter, not making shots. Austin Reeves, historically good shooter, not making shots. Gabe Vincent, historically good shooter, not making shots. Taurean Prince, historically good shooter, not making shots. Like all those guys were shooting horribly compared to their career averages, right? And like what you've seen over this recent winning streak is those guys have started to make shots, and that's good. That's positive regression. That's a good sign, right? There's a lot of better offensive process as well. I think that has led to that, but we're not going to get into that today. Anthony Davis appears to be over his hip issue. Like he was moving great last night. That's good. Help is on the way. Jared Vanderbilt's going to come and help with a lot of their perimeter defense issues. And then I want to shout out D'Angelo Russell. He had a big game. I think he hit 6 threes last night. I think he's in a tough spot in a lot of ways because I said this on the show. Some Laker fans disagree with me, but I think that D'Angelo Russell getting traded is one of the safest bets of this NBA season. He plays the exact same position as Austin Reeves and does all the exact same things their D'Lo's a little bit better as a passer. Austin's a little bit better as a scorer, in my opinion, especially within the playoff context. But like they're more or less the same player, and they're both limited athletes, so they can't play together. And that just kind of inherently makes it so that if you're serious about winning a title this year, you're gonna just in terms of resource allocation, you're better off turning D'Lo's salary into a great perimeter defender that can play next to Austin, right? I think you've seen that in crunch time. They've consistently gone down with Austin in crunch time instead of D'Lo. But despite that, he's just been such a professional. He's been a leader to the young players on the team. He's had a really good attitude. When he's been benched, he's cheered the team on. He even did that during the Nuggets series last year. He just has been a force of positive energy. And like he's in a situation where like he might play amazing the rest of the year and he might stay with the Lakers. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's certainly an outcome that's on the table. But like that's what's crazy is like he's in a situation where he could play amazing until February and they still trade him. Like that's the predicament that he's in, and he's just handling it like a professional. And that's the thing. Like I think a lot of times we talk about guys as basketball players and we forget to talk about them as humans. And like to me, D'Angelo Russell has some limitations as a playoff player. It might end up causing him, in my opinion, will end up causing him to be in a different jersey come February. But the dude is just a professional and is a great dude and is doing a great job maintaining the chemistry situation within that Lakers locker room in a way that he could have gone a different direction if he wanted to, right? All right, last question. Jason, you've consistently defended Draymond as different than Dylan Brooks because he doesn't cross the line into trying to hurt people. What do you have to say after the choking incident last night? Like I said, I thought this was legitimately hilarious because it was just funny that I went out on a limb and then this happened. Do I think it's the same as, trying to clothesline a guy who's going up for a dunk and breaking his elbow? No. Do I think it's the same as deliberately rolling up on someone's knees and trying to break their ankle or whatever the hell Dylan Brooks was doing? No, it's not the same as that, but it was bad. I can defend him for taking Gobert off of Klay, but like, it's one of those things where like, if you were watching the clip, you can it's like, I can defend this. Okay. Now I definitely can't defend this. Cause it was like, he didn't just put him in a headlock. He locked it in and then held on for a long time. And like, then after that held on for longer. And so here's the thing. It was clearly out of line. I think he's probably going to get a pretty significant suspension and he's going to deserve it. And unfortunately, making that decision and putting your team in a predicament where they're in a losing streak and they need their players available, I think it was a mistake. But at the same time, like obviously, I don't think that's the same as that. That's classic Draymond doing too much. But it's not the same as like actually trying to hurt people. Unless you think Draymond was trying to kill Gobert, which obviously is just super dramatic. Rudy made some comments after the game that were dramatic in that regard. Obviously, Draymond's not trying to hurt anybody. He just crossed a line and did something that's going to get him into a suspension situation. And like I said, when it happens, I will agree with the suspension because, I mean, here's the thing. Klay and Jaden McDaniels started the fight, and Rudy Gobert pulled Klay off. And like, what was interesting about it was Rudy kind of had a similar type of thing going on, but then he didn't lock in. Like, he pulled Klay off and his hands were near the neck, but he didn't lock in. Draymond like did the same thing to start, and then he locked in, and like from there, it's like that's just completely indefensible. So whatever happens will be deserved at that point.